Hello and welcome to another video for Fligo Paints. If you've been here before, well, welcome back. And if you haven't been here before, well, I hope you enjoy this. Just me sharing a little more of my hobby time. I decided to refurbish some old minis that I had that are either had a bad paint job or were actually broken. And to start that, I just wanted to remove the paint that I had on them from back then. These are old oil-based testers paints or enamels, either testers or Tamiya from 30, 40 years ago. And so I dipped them in Pine Sol for a few days. I didn't bother counting how many days. I just put them in there and let them alone while I did other things during the course of the week until I could get to them again. A note, one thing is you do not want to use Pine Sol on plastic parts or plastic minis because I hear that the Pine Sol will eat through the plastic and destroy your miniature. But for these metal minis, these are pewter from 30, 40 years ago. It works just fine. I use the toothbrush to easily get off the majority of the old paint, and then I'm using a small flathead screwdriver to scrape off some excess stuff. This one had some stuff in between the legs. I wasn't sure if it was paint or some kind of oxidation on the miniature, but it came right off with scraping, and I just work through removing all the old treatment and paint that I had done. And so I use a nail file, like a lady's nail file, or I'll use some other small jeweler's files that I got online. And those work really well, and they take a lot of material off very easily. He had a halberd. I know it's weird. It's an Aurel Partha mini. He has a shield and a halberd, which is odd because a halberd is a two-handed weapon. And that axe head or halberd head has fallen off, I don't know, many times over the course of the last, I don't know how many years. And I think it's a miracle that I still have it. And I'd glue it on with super glue, so every time, so after so many times, there's just a big wad of super glue on this guy's fist trying to hold that axe in place. So at this point, I'm just cleaning all the parts and I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do to try to repair this miniature. At this point, I'm just working the parts, see what I can do. I'm kind of just working my way through it. And I'm thinking I'm going to file off that super glue and get a decent surface to attach that halberd. But at some point I realized that maybe I don't want to do that, and I remember that I have extra weapons that I bought off of Ral Partha Legacies a while back, and I think it's going to be a good idea to try and use those. So see how I try to fit that. So you can see here is what he looks like. All these miniatures here, except for the warhorse on the left and one of the knights on the back, I had dipped in Pine Sol. They were all had paint on them, all enamel paint. And after leaving them there for a few days, that paint just came right off. And look how clean and shiny they are. It's great. Great way to start from zero with these miniatures. Still dry fitting that halberd head, thinking about what I'm going to do with them. And then here's when I get the idea that I'm just going to get rid of that halberd completely. I remembered that I have other weapons. So I bought this hand tool off of Amazon as well. It's not the most expensive one, it's actually the cheapest one, but it does the trick. And thank goodness that I could speed up this video because I'm sure this is already a boring video, but it would be way more boring if you had to watch me drill a hole through his fist in real time. So we'll just zip right through that. Gotta be a little patient, try to keep it straight. Right? And also it's an outstretched arm, so I don't want to bend it with the pressure that I'm putting on it with the drill. Not a lot of pressure anyways, I want to let the drill do its job. but that's why I support the arm with my fingers beneath it, so that I don't bend it by mistake and warp this miniature. And now I'm using my fine clipper to clip off some extra burrs that the drill has created, and I'll just go back in and go again. Now I'm using a small drill that's smaller than the diameter of the piece that I'm planning on putting in his hand, so that I can have it as a guide. I'll have that hole as a guide, and then I'll come back with a second round and do another drill. And you can see the material being pushed out by the drill as I go through his fist. And that's normal. That's a good sign. It means it's working. And you want to do this because you use a small pilot hole, which is what I'm making with a smaller drill. So you can guide the larger drill in the direction that you want it to go. You'll have more control uh, with that second operation, having done the first operation with this smaller drill. It takes a little bit of a while until finally. See, now the drill just stays in place because it's that deep into the material. Finally, I have a eureka moment and get through his fist. So I back it out, prepare for the next step. Now I'm going to go find the extra weaponry I got from Ral Partha Legacy. You can see I have two great swords there. So I'm just looking to see, and those are the parts that I took off the miniature. That's the miniature itself. You can see how big everything is. So I just picked the sword that I think is in better shape and clean my work surface. And now I'm going to clean up this weapon. Take the burrs and the flashing and any mold lines off of it. I did it to the figure, I might as well do it to his weapon as well. I gotta be careful not to take too much material off because this is a tiny part. Now I just kind of see him fit, see if he fits into place. And then I get that larger drill bit, put it on there, and now I'm gonna go ahead and drill the final hole into his fist that will fit that new sword that he'll be holding. So you see it was a lot easier to get through. I'm going to clean up the hole now with the X-Acto knife and with the file. I got a round file that I can go and clean up the edges copy from excess materials and make his hand look like it's really his hand and just a stem going around instead of a ball of metal that he's using to hold the sword. It'll look like his actual hand. So once I know that that'll fit, I size the sword to see. I'm going to do it so that it'll look like he's got his sword into the ground. Because he's got his shield kind of in the earth, and so I'm going to go ahead and make it so that he's got his sword um, stabbed into the earth as well. So I just clip off enough of the sword to get it to fit right into the base of the mini. I'll take some super glue and dab a bit on the end. You're not going to see that anyways when I base it. And now I will put them onto a 25mm plastic base that I like to use for all of my minis. And sand off any excess burrs and parts off the base. And when I go to fit him, I realize that his base is bent. It's probably been bent the last 40 years. So I sand it down flat and refit him onto the 25mm base. And there he is, ready for basing and then on to the next steps. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is a stripping and repairing of a Ral Partha Knight. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm really happy with how he came out. Flinko Paints out.